Rats! Screamed Arthur Poppycock, rudely awakened by an enormous black rat that was noisily munching on the remnants of his double chocolate muffin. Arthur peered out the window to see a seagull flapping seaward, escaping the rats that covered the harbour office, the yachts, the fishing boats, and the quayside.
Rats!
Screamed Sheila Wobbly, Mrs. Bumble's neighbour on Seaview Terrace. She opened the door to her spare bedroom to find rats devouring her washing. The wash basket did smell faintly of fish and chips, so perhaps the rats thought it was food. Dull-on-Sea was infested with rats. They were everywhere, not only in every house on Seaview Terrace, but all through town. Rats! 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 The museum had closed as soon as it had opened, when the curator had spotted rats chewing on dinosaur bones. The library was open, but the librarians were moving all the books to higher shelves because the rats had taken a liking to paper. Chief Inspector Clueless of Dull-on-Sea Police had locked himself in a cell because he had a bit of a phobia of rats. He asked to be notified when the council's pest control department had cleared the police station. Matilda had woken early and staggered downstairs in her pyjamas to see if there was a clean school dress in the laundry basket. She couldn't quite open her eyes. It was a Friday morning and almost the end of term, so waking up was getting much more difficult. As Matilda wandered through the kitchen, she wondered why her mum was standing on the table with a broom. The cat flap banged, swinging on its hinges, and Matilda's cat hurtled past.
Good morning, Fluff,
said Matilda with a yawn. But Fluff didn't stop. In the utility room, Matilda rummaged in the laundry basket and found a clean dress. When she yanked it from beneath the other clothes, a big ball of black fur fell to the floor and scurried beneath the washing machine. "Another one!" screamed Matilda's dad. She hadn't noticed until now, but her dad was balancing on a tall cupboard. Matilda suddenly felt much more awake.
Another what?
She asked. "Rats!" said Matilda's dad. "Rats everywhere!" Back on Seaview Terrace, Mrs. Bumble reached for her phone. She would call the council to see what they would do. She hadn't moved to Seaview Terrace to have rodents spoil her view. 2. Fiddle practice. "What's that horrible noise?" screamed Grandpa, his head popping up from a hatch on the forecastle. "It sounds like a kraken, pulling the gizzards from a mermaid." "Pardon?" said Jim Lad, moving one headphone aside. He'd been listening to some very loud heavy metal music to drown out Nugget's fiddle practice. Nugget had just started learning the fiddle, which is very like a violin, but of a type favoured by pirates and rogues. Grandpa had played his fiddle across the oceans and seas, until recently passing it on to Nugget. Many years ago, he had been given his fiddle by a mysterious sea hag, and seemed to recall his music had not been popular with other pirates. He did attract crowds of land-loving children whenever he played ashore, but other than Nugget and Jim, he had never been keen on sproglets. Unfortunately, Grandpa had been forced to give up playing when the king chopped off his hand, and he had stashed his fiddle in an old sea chest. But that's a story for another time. Right now, he was regretting that he had given it to Nugget. "Curses!" hollered Grandpa. "Why didn't I palm her off with my flute?" But Grandpa knew why he'd given Nugget his fiddle. She'd been obsessed with it since she was a baby. She would rock wide-eyed in her cot as Grandpa skipped about her cabin playing sea shanties on it and singing in his croaky voice. On her 4th birthday, Grandpa gifted the fiddle to Nugget and started to teach her how to play. He told Nugget that the more she practiced, the better she would get. That was a few weeks ago, but her playing hadn't much improved. It wasn't because Nugget was short on enthusiasm.